Hello everyone, this is Anthony, owner of Get Hose Power Washing here in Omaha, Nebraska. This will be my first YouTube video, I guess just a little bit of an intro. Eventually this channel is going to be something more aimed toward tips and tricks when it comes to power washing. We're going to be going over some equipment comparisons, such as certain nozzles, certain wands, certain hoses, basically everything you can think of. We're going to do some comparisons. I'm going to be doing some point of view work. I'm going to show you guys around a few different jobs that I will be on. Everything as far as fleet cleaning, as far as surface cleaning, and as far as like 3-story high-rise buildings. We do just about it all. So today is just going to be kind of like a little intro to the YouTube channel, just showing you guys around the truck. I'm going to show you guys my setup, and I'm going to show you guys some of the things that I like, and maybe you guys can leave a little bit of feedback in the comments. Maybe there's some things that you guys might know that I might not. So I guess that's kind of what this first video is going to be about. It's just going to be... So here's the truck here. We have a 2018 Ram 5500. Some might say it might be a little bit overkill for this industry and for what we're doing, but I like to think it's just right because, I mean, you know, you can always start with a small setup, but when you have a truck like this, there's always room to expand, and there's always room to just add more. So you don't ever have to worry about getting a new truck down the line. I kind of just thought of it as either you go big or go home. So I went ahead and just kind of pulled the trigger on this rig right here. It's been very great to me. I've been great to it. Just keep up on your maintenance and it'll do you pretty well. Here we got our hose reels. It's just a single operator setup, but we do have dual hose reels here. This one right here is from Daltmeyer Sales. This is their non-coated hose reel that I had gotten from them recently. It has done me really well. This is one that came with my unit. This whole setup here is from Powerline USA. They are a company out in Utah. They specialize in making this equipment, and they build power washing trailers. They build hot jet systems. They do just about all of it. So they were able to come through and hook me up with this full setup. It originally had came on the back of a trailer, and I had went ahead and basically taken everything off that trailer. I had an old truck set up as well, and we went ahead and I launched it. I got the flatbed. We took everything from the back of the trailer, just threw it here on this flatbed, and they went through, they did like the custom logos and all that kind of stuff. So it ended up coming out really well. So I guess one of their main things that they do, their most popular setup right here, is an 8-gallon per minute 3500 psi setup, which we have right here. This is our hot seat. Here is the setup from Powerline USA. So this is an 8-gallon a minute Honda GX690 V-twin. Here we got gas for the washer. We have diesel for our hot seat. We'll wrap around to the other side so I can show you guys that stuff. Here we have a Beckett hot seat. Now you can find these at the Hot Seat store. Now this isn't a Hot Seat brand, but it is Beckett. They do work on this stuff. They have a lot of these pumps. Here we have a GP pump. This is the 8-gallon a minute 3500 psi pump. This all came together, as I said, on a full skid. This entire skid right here is all from Powerline USA. It's a nice little setup. As you can see, it might be a little inconvenient for me as of right now, since I do have to climb the truck to access the key to start the motor, which we're working on a solution for that here soon. I plan on kind of rearranging a lot of stuff on this truck, and wanting to get dual operator setups on here to get a little more work, if you know what I mean. Here we have our water tank. Now I believe this is just a 275-gallon water tank, kind of just your basic. It's nothing too crazy. It gets the job done. We have that feeding in to our filters right here, of course, which then feeds mainline into the pump. I know these look a little dirty right now. I have yet to clean them. They definitely could use a cleaning. We're gonna go ahead and step down from here. Some of you guys might be wondering what this is right here. This little T-fitting that I have between where the water comes from my main tank and goes through the filters, then into the pump. I had one of my good buddies, Cody from Daltmeyer Sales, help me build this little T-fitting right here with a little valve in between. And what this is actually used for is, since we get some pretty cold weather here in Nebraska, I do have a bit of washing on some cold days. And, you know, I'll never wash below 30 degrees, but, you know, the wind chill, you never know. It can get really cold when you're on the road. So I have this tank right here. This is also from Daltmeyer, and they had hooked me up with some of the fittings that I needed and a little quick connect fitting right here. So what I'll do is, if it does get pretty cold and I'm worried about some of the water that's maybe inside of the truck already, inside some of the lines in the pump from freezing, I'll go ahead and hook this on there. I'll put about 4 or 5 gallons of antifreeze in there, go ahead and run it through the pump, which what I'll do is, once I have that filled, I can go ahead and bring it over here. I put that tank right here. I'll connect it into this little quick connect fitting right here. I can close the water coming from the tank, and I can open the valve coming from the antifreeze tank, so I can allow some RV antifreeze into that pump, which RV antifreeze is safe for the pump, and it's recommended for winterization on these. I have a heated shop, so I don't winterize my unit, but I still do use the antifreeze because it can be very nice on some of these days where it gets cold at night and you got a long drive back home. Some of my jobs are about 30-45 minutes away, so you got to think of the wind chill when you're on the road, and you know that stuff can freeze up, and you know it happens if water freezes up in your pump and in your lines. It's just a nightmare, so you don't ever want to have to deal with that. So, and these tanks are super easy to deal with. You know, they give me a tank, you just drill a little hole in the side there, you throw some fittings in, you throw some sealant so it's not leaking, and it's a pretty easy deal there. I guess another couple things we could go over on here is, I guess, storage. These are just some toolboxes that I like. These came from Powerline Industries, Utah, when we had purchased the whole setup, but I believe you guys can pretty much get these anywhere. They're super nice. I use them for chemical storage. As you can see, I got some lime cleaner, some degreaser, more degreaser, and then we got our pump up sprayers for application in this box. I use all the storage I can get. I even use my back seats. This is a mess in here. Probably wouldn't want to look at that. Got some more. You get the deal. Chemical, pretty much anything you need. Toolboxes, very underrated add-on. Here's another thing we could go over. Here's something that I think is an absolute game changer as far as power washing goes. If you guys are doing fleet cleanings, if you guys are doing heavy equipment cleanings, anything that involves some type of grease removal, oxidation removal, I would say mostly fleet cleaning, you're going to want to go ahead and invest in something like this right here. So this is a chemical box, a dual solenoid chemical box, and what it is used for is, as you can see, we got these 2 lines going into these 2 chemical tanks here. We have 2 different chemicals in here, which these are known as 2-step cleaning chemicals. I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably heard of them. If you haven't, essentially what a 2-step cleaning chemical is you have 2 steps, just as it sounds. You have your first step, which is normally an acid or essentially it's an acid type soap / alkaline or oxidation remover. And then you have your step 2, which is a degreaser. And what happens is these 2 chemicals, when they contact, they make a chemical reaction which lifts oxidation, it lifts dirt. It essentially makes it so you have a entirely scrubless wash. These chemicals will do all of the work for you. Now, I'm not going to go into chemical suppliers or anything like that. I'll leave that up to you. A lot of companies sell different stuff when it comes to this stuff, but I've happened to have a lot of luck with Kootenai Chemical and Kyle Finney over there. They've been hooking me up with some chemical for a while now, and I haven't had any problems with them. I've tried out a few different companies, and they just seem to nail it down. So now my chemical box, this is from something else. I actually had someone build this for me. Normally these systems can run you a pretty penny. They can be anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 to $2,000. It really just depends. I find it a lot easier. I had found someone that knows how to build them and was able to source the parts and give me accurate pricing. They're really not all that expensive to build, but it definitely does take a little bit of knowledge to know how to build them. I was able to acquire mine personally here for about $500, which was a deal compared to a lot of them that were around. And they are brand name, but this one has been going strong for about a year and a half now. I've had absolutely zero issues with it, and it has just worked phenomenally for me. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and pop this open, show you guys kind of what's going on in here. Now, it might look a little messy at first, but it's pretty simple, really. Here you got your little antenna, because we have a remote that actually activates this. And now here are your 2 acid-resistant solenoids. So, essentially, I'm gonna grab this remote. Now, I'm just gonna kind of show you guys how this works here. So, we're gonna go ahead and click it on. Just a little button. You can see it'll turn red, obviously, when it's on. And A, right here, this is going to be for your first chemical. And B will be for your second chemical. Pretty self-explanatory. Now, C will be for rinse, but a lot of the time you really don't need to use C, and I'm going to explain that here in a little bit why. But we're going to go ahead and start by running you through this here. So we have chemical line coming from this tank here, going inline, where it essentially gets downstreamed through this solenoid when it's open. You'll hear it pop. You can see the lights lit up now, and now we got this light here shining to let us know that we are on step 1. And then we have B. You can hear it click on right there. You'll see the light flashing right here that indicates that you are on B. And then we're going to go ahead and click C. C will cut them all off entirely. Go ahead and turn that off. Take some more wires in. Yeah, that's kind of how this works. So you'll just click A if you want that first chemical. I'll show you guys again. A, you see it lights up. B, and C. So that's kind of how that chemical box works. It's pretty self-explanatory. Now, what you're going to want to pair it with is, to use that chemical box, is essentially just for downstreaming. This is going to be more aimed towards just, I guess, fleet washing applications and stuff along those lines, but you can really use it for anything. I've seen people fill them with SH and do house washes with them and soft washing. I've seen people use them for just about everything, but what I like to do is I have this setup right here, which this setup's also from Daltmeyer right here too. We have a Suttner ST1700. Now this is the soft trigger, the soft pull trigger from Daltmeyer. I really do like this. It has done a major difference compared to some of these other guns. You know, power washing for so long, you get that a lot of pain in the wrist, you get some of that shoulder pain. You know, you're sitting there for hours and hours and hours just kind of non-stop on that trigger, and it can get really painful, and it can really stress you out. So I highly recommend investing in something like this with these easy pull triggers, especially if you're running something like an 8 gallon per minute setup like I am. It's just going to be so much more beneficial, and it'll help you out so much more in the long run. But this is where a lot of the magic happens right here. So this is a trombone tip, and essentially what this does is this allows you to have variable pressure. Essentially with this little piece right here pulled down, you're going to be drawing low pressure, which is going to allow for that chemical to draw out of those tanks right there. Now, like I showed you earlier with that 2-step box, it will only draw chemical when you click on that chemical. So if I wanted to draw A, I'm going to pull this down right here. See, this is up. I'm going to pull that down, and then I'll click A. And then I'm going to go ahead and start spraying, and then after about 3 to 4 seconds, you give the chemical a little bit of time to downstream, and then it'll start coming out of this gun at low pressure. And then if you want to switch, you'll just go ahead, you'll leave that out, switch to B. You're going to apply your second application. You're going to apply your second stage over the first stage. And once you do that, then you can go ahead and click C to rinse, or since you can only downstream with low pressure, it's never going to draw with high pressure unless you have a bypass system, which we'll have to get into that much later. That's something I don't have or know too much about, so we'll have to get a little bit of knowledge on that and see what we can do as far as that goes. But as of right now, or just running this trombone. And if you would like the high pressure, all you got to do is go ahead and push that in, start spraying, and after about 4 to 5 seconds, that chemical will stop coming through the line since it won't be able to downstream, and you'll get a nice solid rinse going. So now another thing that I'd like to talk to you guys about are, now if you guys don't know, I don't know if you guys have heard of the company Mosmatic, but they're another power washing company. They make a ton of supplies. I actually had the opportunity to go and meet them firsthand and test out some of their supplies at Daltmeyer Sales here in Omaha, Nebraska. So one of the things that they had sold me on immediately, and I think what one of the biggest game changers in this industry are these Mosmatic wand swivels right here. Now, they don't have to necessarily go on the end of the wand here. You can put it on the start of your hose as well to make it even simpler. But essentially what this does is, when you don't have that swivel on there, the hose is going to, when there's pressure in the system, this isn't going to want to move. It's going to cause a bunch of knotting. It's going to cause loops in your hose. It's just going to be the most annoying thing to deal with. It is one of the most biggest pains on a job, is just unwinding that hose, reeling that hose in, and this is just an absolute game changer. Now, I have not had any problems with these since I've purchased them. I have one on both of my reels here. Here's the one I've set up on my gun. As you can see, the hose is just staying in place, and I'm able to just move this wand. And now that is also the same when it is under pressure. It does not bind up or lock up when it is under pressure, so you can get a lot of motion of range with your wrist and your arm, and it just really helps out with the longevity of washing, and definitely just feels a lot better on your muscles and your body. You know, with an industry like this, when it's just constant, you know, just spraying and stuff, you're really gonna want to care for your body, and you're gonna want to be on top of that stuff. So I would definitely say a quick pull trigger along with the Mosmatic Easy Swivel. That's good. I guess that's pretty much all today, guys. Like I said, this is my first YouTube video, so really any feedback helps. I appreciate really anything. I'll take whatever I can get. This is my first time doing something like this. But yeah, that's my washing setup. This is Anthony Coleman, owner of Get Hose Power Washing here in Omaha, Nebraska. And I guess we'll see you guys later. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you.